we did get it started. So right now, the DC Court of Appeal, the appeal is in the briefing stage. This is from Henry Luthen, who's the first Assistant Corporation Counsel. I've been conversing with him. The city has also entered into an agreement with the law firm of Davis, Mom, and DeAugustine, who's been working with us alongside the city. Appeal is in the briefing stage. City filed our initial brief on behalf of the City of Boston delegation, and a responsive brief has been filed by FERC. In the coming days, this was written last week, Algonquin Gas Transmission and other interested gas distribution companies will have an opportunity to file briefs in support of FERC's decision to grant the approvals they needed to proceed with pipeline construction to the AIM project. The deadline was Friday. Algonquin filed on Friday afternoon. In mid-November, so we're talking about a couple of weeks now, that's the deadline that the city can file a short brief responding to the arguments raised by FERC and Algonquin. Obviously, we're going to talk about the short shrift that was given to the neighborhood. We're going to talk about the risks posed by the decision to locate the pipeline alongside the crushed stone quarry, and the fact there were other preferable alternative routes which would have avoided the quarry. FERC had an obligation to consider this alternative, but they rejected it without an adequate basis. The briefing process concludes on December 15th of this year. The DC Court of Appeals generally schedules oral arguments once the final briefs are on file. We don't know yet. I think it's unlikely to happen this calendar year because we run up to the holidays, so I'm hopeful it'll be the early part of 2017, and it's hard to estimate how long before a decision comes after that. It could be 2 to 6 months. So that's sort of where we are on the federal litigation. I think some of you are aware that Spectra was mandated to host a public safety meeting, which they did, and then they canceled the last minute, and then they rescheduled. I know some of you, Bill and some others were out there. I think Nora was out there. It was earlier this past month in October. Myself, Senator Rush, Representative Coppinger, City Councilor Tim McCarthy came as well, and the Boston Police were well represented with Superintendent O'Rourke. The Boston Fire Department were well represented, as well as several other public safety officials from Dedham. I don't believe, although I may be wrong, whether or not Western had anyone there. And as has been written in the paper, in my opinion, it was not at all adequate. I began by discussing the fact that at a minimum, Spectra had to have a robust community meeting, just like this, where they could answer the concerns, which I and many of the other speakers will not be able to answer tonight, simply because we don't know. I talked about the antipathy with this organization treated my neighborhood. Talked about the fact that this has been a closed-door process the entire way, and I told them, you better believe we're going to fight like hell for this every step of the way going forward. They talked about possible public safety scenarios, and it was a joke. They had old, 20-year-old sort of a movie that showed what would happen, that was probably from the 80s or 90s, and so much of the world has changed. I do know, and I just want to be clear on this because I think it's important to note, I know some folks have expressed concern about homeland security and terrorism with this, and I don't minimize anyone's concern about that. I do think, though, that the thing that worries me most about this is human error in weather events. So I don't want to give short shrift to anyone who has any concerns, but I do want to make sure that we focus on what can happen. We have all seen, we saw what happened at Salem Township a couple months ago. We've seen what has happened in other things. There was one yesterday, Karen. Yeah, in Alabama, that's right. So I just want to be careful on that because I know that it's come up. Yeah, I mean we could spend the rest of the evening talking about errors and human errors that have caused this thing. So that's my concern. The last thing I'll talk about, and then I'm happy to take questions, is I've been working very, very closely with a group called Mothers Out Front, who have been doing some remarkable work when it comes to gas leaks. Does anyone want to venture a guess as to how many gas leaks there are in the city of Boston?
17,000. 17,000.
So the most conservative estimates say just under 2,000, 1,800. Others, objective analysts have said the number could be triple that. Now, as ratepayers, and most of us, I certainly am a ratepayer, we are paying, just in the city of Boston alone, $90 million a year on unaccounted for gas. I had a hearing on this issue, how do we fix the leaks? National Grid came in, as did NSTAR. And I said, you keep talking about the need for this new infrastructure, this new pipeline, because we don't have enough gas. If we fix these leaks, wouldn't we have more than enough gas?
Yeah.
And they could barely answer the question. I then asked, one person was a was, you know, the neighborhood outreach coordinator, I forget exactly what her title was, but I said, you know, in your professional opinion, does it make any sense to have a transfer M&R station directly across the street from an active quarry? And she didn't answer, and I said, your silence is deafening right now. So, what I've been doing at the council level, again with my colleagues, with Senator Rush and Representative Coppinger and others, has been to, first we did a resolution in support of 2 bills at the State House, one by Senator Jamie Eldridge, the other by Rep. Lori Ehrlich. We both supported resolutions for those. Those have not yet been signed into law. We came close, but didn't quite seal the deal this year. What we would do would be to take the language similar to those 2 state bills, impose it at the city level. It would allow for a 6-year time frame for all leaks to be fixed. It would allow for better coordination with our utility companies, with our public works, with Verizon, with other folks that may be doing work to fix those leaks. It would create accessibility. It would create sunshine as the ultimate disinfectant, where we could have a real time or at least a week off, which is what New York City does in terms of real GIS mapping in terms of where the gas leaks are. And it's exciting. We've had a hearing. It was terrific. We've had a number of working sessions. Is there anyone here from Mothers Out Front? Okay. So, yeah, and BCAN, I'm sorry, Boston Climate Action Network has been remarkable as well. I apologize for that. So BCAN's always looking for good members. Vicki Bach, who's been my partner in Jamaica Plain on this stuff, is looking for a West Roxbury chapter. So make sure that you get involved. Another great organization, Karen. Absolutely. I mean, we have tons of organizations here, but I did tell Vicki Bach I'd give a special shout out for Mothers Out Front. We need so going forward, that can be one of the steps. I encourage you to get involved with that. These are obviously related.